Hello, this is Amy Zawi with the Jerusalem Connection Report for Friday, August 4 in the arts. So this is pretty interesting. Roger Waters, Pink Floyd's frontman, has been a vocal BDS activist for many years. He openly courts fellow musicians and other performers to cancel performances in Israel, refuse to distribute movies or literature, or have any participant in the state of Israel, particularly to avoid augmenting its economy. The most recent fight publicly was between he and Radiohead frontman, who did actually complete his performances in Tel Aviv this summer after a vocal and public debate on social media where Roger Waters requested Radiohead not perform, and they countered pretty vehemently. I reported on that a couple weeks ago. Well, Roger Waters has a concert scheduled in the Nassau Coliseum in New York City, a city-owned property. And New York City also passed a resolution just last year that the city cannot do business with any entity that is engaged in BDS activities, boycott, divest, or sanction the state of Israel. So, lawmaker Howard Koppel asked the county attorney last week to determine whether or not the lease agreement with Nassau Coliseum would be in compliance or violate this 2016 law that says the city cannot do business with folks actively engaged in BDS actions against the state of Israel. Now, Koppel is an Orthodox Jew who represents a large contingency of Jewish people in his district, and he posted on Facebook that Waters' concert violates the anti-BDS law while calling the musician notorious frontman for the BDS movement and a virulent anti-Semite. Now, Waters is reacting to this by saying it will not be approved, and that any forbidding of him to use the Nassau Coliseum would actually be an affront to the First Amendment. And I'm not sure that's entirely accurate. I would argue that it does not violate his free speech because he is welcome to find any other private venue, privately held concert venue, to pay and lease and have his concert. Nothing's stopping him from saying and performing what he wants. It's just the city doesn't want to participate in it. Now, I'm curious to see how this pans out, but indeed it is a bit of the doctor taking his own medicine. Here's a man who's been railing against performers not to engage in doing business of any kind with the state of Israel or any audience within Israel because of the very fact that they might economically benefit. And here's a city who has declared most publicly, including with its legislation, that that's an intolerable position to take, that BDS activities are in fact anti-Semitic, and that city will not participate in doing business with any business entity that takes that BDS position. Waters still has the right to speak and say what he wants and perform as well. The city just doesn't have to participate in it. Now, this comes on the heels of a very interesting incident that happened to Waters earlier this summer in Miami, Florida. He was scheduled to perform, and a group of summer students, teenagers in a performing arts summer program, were scheduled to perform on stage with him. They studied who he is and got wind of his anti-Semitic activities, and they canceled at the last minute, refusing to perform with him. Miami Beach spokeswoman Melissa Barthier told the Herald a few weeks ago, hours before the scheduled concert, the teens would not participate, saying in a statement, quote, "Miami Beach is a culturally diverse community and does not tolerate any form of hate." The Greater Miami Jewish Federation took out an online ad in the Herald with a statement that noted, quote, "Mr. Waters is a vile messenger of anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, and hatred is not welcome in this community." So I actually did read about this event in Miami a few weeks ago, and I mentally applauded these teens and their organizers and mentors for giving them such a teaching moment and to give them a stand for morality. The city of Miami stood up for justice, and I was so proud of that. Now I'd like to see what the city of New York does in regards to this. Ultimately, though, it's the ticket buying community that will make or break Waters' career. On another note, award-winning filmmaker Ian Halperin will release this summer a documentary examining the contemporary anti-Semitism movement, including Roger Waters' campaign against Israel. He is quoted as saying, "You can argue with some points of Israel's policies, no problem, but to call for a universal boycott of Israel is deplorable, baseless, and unfounded. It is an anti-Semitic attack." Bravo, Mr. Halperin, for standing up for truth and justice and calling out your fellow artists for what they are. And we're taking the time to generate a documentary that will examine this in detail. I encourage you all to look for it. Award-winning filmmaker Ian Halperin. His documentary will be released before the end of the summer. We have encouragement as well as more legal battles on the front. I will report back on what's going on in New York City as it unfolds. Shavua Tov. Have a great week, and Shabbat Shalom.